I am just on my way to go and see Sherif of Pendle Press to talk about a potential publication for some work that I produced, some poems about the local area, which is Nelson, Lancashire. I think it will be a great discussion about that potential publication and maybe a launch event as well. I've never actually met Sherif before, so it'll be interesting to meet him for the first time and get to know him. I might just put this camera in the meeting, but I'm gonna ask him first if it's okay for me to record him. But yeah, this is the process happening. The first bit is happening. Yeah, between all the writing and the recording and the editing videos and putting them together and even recording the videos, everything is slowly coming together. I hope in 2 months' time I will have a complete project that I'm able to launch to the local area and tour it around the UK maybe as well. Really excited to see what happens.
We had a good laugh. We worked at Boundary Mill together for years. I'm like looking at him, waiting for him to make.
So I'm here with Sherif from Pendle Press. We had a nice little discussion today about a potential publication, perhaps.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Would you just like to tell us a little bit about Pendle Press?
Yeah, of course, mate. He started about coming up to 3 years ago. Obviously, I'm from the local area here in Briarfield in Pendle, and my work the last 10 years or so has been focused in the world of publishing. I've worked across arts and heritage publishing, photography, literary translation, and I've sort of got the appetite to tell some more local stories as to where I'm from. I live in London, but I come back up often. And I've been trying to put a spotlight on stories and give a voice, give a platform to voices from our local area. Started with a small project around the life and works of my dad, and he was a Libyan satirist and artist. From there, I've sort of developed and been working with photographers in the area and sort of the northwest more broadly. Started to work with other collaborators. Working on a book about the life and works of Sam Hanna, a filmmaker from Burnley. And obviously through social media, managed to find talented people like yourself, and with a mutual interest of sort of, storytelling about the area that we come from, we struck up conversation and we've planted the seed hopefully for a publication coming up maybe in the spring this year.
Some call it an acorn, whatever we want to call it. There's going to be something big.
Yeah. It's I like to work with different styles of communication. Whether it's written, it's image based, and I think working together would be a fun project.
I think it will be beneficial for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about the potential of how far the project can go, and the local area is one small place where it can go, but it has potential to reach national level, perhaps even international as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very important when you have a piece of work that's focused on the local area that this isn't just a piece of work that's about here. It ties into you and your experience and who you are and how this area shaped you, and I think that it's very important when presenting the work that you do make it have an appeal to people that have an interest in identity and place and home, and that's how other people can connect with your work. It's not necessarily just about people from Nelson who should be interested in this work. It's about people who have an interest in connecting and engaging with pieces of art that allow them to ask questions about their own identity and where they're from. It doesn't matter where you're from in the world. It's just about connecting with something, and that's where I think culture and art is it's at its most powerful, where it sort of breaks down barriers and
and allows people to access things that are not accessible.
Ultimately, it's ultimately about the human experience. For me, that's what it's about. And obviously, starting somewhere like where we're from, I think we have such a rich history here and very interesting stories. And it is an area that has often been, I think, it's had bad press for, let's put it that way, for the past 20 or something years as we've been growing up. And we both know, as a sort of someone who mixed race, and you come in, you got the South Asian heritage. We know, we've seen it, we've been on the receiving end of racism, whatever, but that's not all there is here. And I think from the outside, a lot of people think that is all that's here, you know what I mean? But we have a very rich culture and history, and I think that it's once you start to understand that, you feel that there is a sense of duty to play your part in celebrating that and preserving that culture and telling it in different ways.
Telling it and being, that is exactly it. Telling it in different ways that people are able to take a slice of it, and not just from the mainstream.
Absolutely.
Understanding.
Yeah.
So, thank you. I might just leave. I might just. Never heard any of my poetry, so I might as well just give you a poem.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this poem is very fitting for what me and Sherif did today, which is a beginning. So this poem is a beginning. So this is how it begins, or began at the beginning of things, before things were things and words weren't. It was a word connected to sense, sense connected to self, and self connected to all else. And thus at birth was born the I, the earth, and everything in between. Behold, this stream of consciousness, held open by eyes, ears, mind, heart, beheld then, here and now, still holding then, and then like a seashell pressed against an ear, here echoes both near and far. Hold it, be held by it, and give this moment its beginning, its due.
Love it.
So Sherif did give me one of the books that he has produced, and this is about his father, a Libyan artist in exile, Hassan al-Satur Dhaimish. But yeah, this is what we will be looking at.
Conversation going with in situ, so that we can sort of see if we run in tandem with them on this.
Definitely.
Because the thing is as well,
they have outreach. Yeah,
and I think from the conversation I had today, I think that I'd be able to get even just like the design costs covered by them if they were to take 10 copies of the book to have
in their library.
Yeah.
Perfect. You know what?
I'd only do that with your consent, of course, but
Of course, look.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't want to say this in a bad, way of ego, but I've done the work. I've written the poems. I've written the poems, and it's taxing, and it's hard to actually get things together like that. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you're right. They have. I think.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that bio, 150 words. Hypnosis, maybe the same.
Yeah. Yeah. What's also useful for me is, I was kind of explaining this to In Situ today, that like their focus is the local, which is obviously very important to me, but I think it's also important to, even if this is just in a way that you pitch it to other people, is to try and describe your work
through other people's work.
Yeah, and also is something that goes beyond the local, which it does. I think it's a lot about identity and sort of where you're from. So it's like you want it to be for those people who are interested in reading about where people are from.
The interesting thing is, part of the reason that I wrote it, because I really have an obsession with the idea of what home is. Like, what is home? And especially for me, like, this is my home, technically. But I lived away from this for so long. I actually lived longer away from this area than I did in it. Yeah, so I'm like, what? So when I came back to it, I'd like traveled the whole world. I've been to Arabia, Italy, Spain. You know, I lived in Scotland for years, in Preston, in London I lived for a little bit in Hackney, and I lived in Edinburgh for 5-6 years. So when I came back, I really started to appreciate that area for what it was. So it was like, yeah, it is like a reflection of the world brought back to my local area. It's like, you know what do we actually have? We have a wealth that is not available elsewhere. Like the Green Hills and the Pendle Hill, our canals, our industrial history, which is what I talk about a lot. So I kind of like used it as like a marker, which is why I put, I don't know if you know, in the beginning, the first point is that you are here is all that matters on this map. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you are here. That's all that matters. Yeah, it's just you are here. As long as you can acknowledge that, oh, I exist. So that's how I started the collection. You are here is all that matters on this map. So it has a lot to do with what space is and why we value space. So maybe. I'm just thinking about how I can link. The other collections that I have are more worldly,
Yeah, but I think that this one is a nice sort of starting point for us to sort of see.
You know what? I'm really happy with it. Honestly, I'm thinking it's good. I'm not just saying that because I spent a whole year trying to get it together, and I am really.
So at the moment, like you just said, I think. How many poems are in there at the moment?
About 45.
45. So are you saying that you want to break that down into sort of potentially two? Because what you could do is sort of try and aim.
What I can do, because a lot of them are very personal poems. So if I take them personal poems out and just have the ones that are left that represent the area. For example, the Weaving Shuttle one is about the Weaving Shuttle in Nelson Town Centre. Maybe we can do the Burnley Singing Ringing Tree as well. I've got the Canal one, which is about the bridges in Pendle. I've got the Pendle Hill poem, which is about Pendle Hill. So maybe 20 of them poems that are concretely about the area. Let's just stick them in. And it's a concrete area. It's a concrete collection called Full Nelson. The rest of the poems are utilised in a different way. Maybe in the second collection. But for the second part, I'm definitely going to make new work. For In Situ, I'm definitely going to make new work. You know, I have ideas because their project is like, this is Nelson. So I have like a this is Nelson, this is home, this is us, this is culture, this is life. I have like because I need them to be typographical as well, because they are going to be.
But they were asking me about that like today, with design and stuff like that, because I work with designers, but
they said that they would put me, they said they would put me in touch with the designer.
I mean, we've done like you know, I've curated exhibitions and stuff, so and I work with fucking some really world-class designers across the board. So what we'll do once you let me know what we've got, if you've got any ideas in terms of aesthetic and, you know, typographically, if you've got any ideas in what you want it to look like or what I can do, I'll set up a call with the three of us with the designer and we can bounce some ideas around and he'll throw a couple of concepts out there.
Okay, what do you mean by design? Do you mean the front cover, back cover?
All of it, because I think it's important for there's a couple of different routes we can take with it. You can have it as simple as you want, you know, black on white, no problem. Typography, you know, if there's anything that you want to give it a more sort of like post-industrial feel, something that's more brutalist, something that's sort of like simple, something that's more symbolic of 19th century poetry, something fucking Helvetica, no frills. And also, if we want to print it in risograph,
that's your speciality.
It is.
It's way above.
That's fine. But I mean, I'm more than happy to sort of bring some suggestions. But what I will do is make sure that we have 2 or 3 eggs. What we usually do is come up with 3 different concepts, very different from each other, that you can then look at and go, I like that, I don't like that, I like the aspects of this one, can you merge them too? And then we do that. So that's what I'm talking about, because you want it. Even though it's just poetry on a page, I think there's an aesthetic that you want to hit with it.
Yeah, of course, you're right.
Yeah. And I know some good publications that I've worked, because I used to work more in literary publishing. I know a lot of good publications, whether they're online, sort of national, international, where I can at least present your work to them and put you in touch with people, because I think that it's important to work with people like in situ, but it's also important to bring that out of the.
You're right. Well, I told you I teach, and most of my students are across the world. Like,
nice.
Some of them are really famous. Some of my students are like 200,000 followers on Instagram. I'm like, why are you coming to me?
Yeah.
I didn't come to me.
Yeah,
I
that's
should
cool.
be coming to you.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So yeah, I've got like they're all industry professionals as well. So like photographers, designers, mostly like designers actually that come to me because they can't write. Yeah, I don't want to say it like that, but they're like, I need to do this application. I need to put this into context.
How did you fall into that? Not fall into it, but
I was teaching in Saudi for a little while. So I've been teaching
Riyadh? Or?
I taught in Riyadh for a couple of months, and then I taught in Tabuk. I don't know if you know Tabuk. It's on the corner of Jordan. So I taught there for a little bit. I also taught in Edinburgh for a bit, and then I was working in the local high schools. I hate high schools.
In Edinburgh?
No, here.
Or here?
In the Vale. Disgusting.
Which one's that? Is that like former prison?
That's Walton.
Right.
Honestly, and school is just like an authoritarian dictatorship, man. It's horrible. The teachers are telling the kids what to do, and the head teacher's telling the teacher what to do, and the council are telling the head teacher what to do. And there's just a game of everybody just telling each other what to do all the time.
Yeah, bureaucracy as well.
Yeah, and teachers are so, I don't want to say this, but my sister's a teacher, right?
Okay.
She's like a 20 years experience, high school teachers. They're so petty, man. Yeah. They care about little kids. They deal with kids all day. You know what I mean? And, they pull kids up on little things. And I just found it. Wow, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I want to make beautiful things, and I'm here teaching these kids that are probably not understanding what I'm saying to them because they're not at the level to understand. They need to break into a little bit of adulthood. And I don't want to say that in a negative way, but. When I was 16, I didn't. If I give this poetry to myself at 16, I'd throw it back at myself. What the hell is this? And I don't understand it. Seriously, I don't understand it. So what I want to do is not waste my energy teaching kids. Right? What I want to do is speak to people and collaborate with people who know what they want, who know what they're here for, who've done all that background work first. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, actually, I need this. Let me go to this person. So I take Arabic lessons at the moment. I know I need Arabic lessons, so I found somebody online who's like, oh, what is your background? What is your education? Can you teach me Arabic fluently? Can you teach me Quranic recitation? Perfect. I will take you as my teacher. Yeah. So, I'm not wasting time with him, he's not wasting time with me.
Are you learning sort of modern standard, or?
I'm learning Fusha.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know a bit of modern standard. You speak Arabic?
Only a little bit, yeah.
Sure.
I taught myself to read and write. You see, Arabic is my dad's first language, but he never taught me growing up. So
I think you might have a good base to learn, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, my reading's not bad, to be honest, because I work a lot with sort of, in the Arab world.
Yeah, I lived in Arabia as well, so I did learn it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I've worked a lot with institutes in Saudi, and obviously fucking everyone's after the money there at the moment with all the publishing projects going on. It's just fucking insane, but we do a lot of cool stuff there. A lot of sort of historical travel books, sort of that have at the moment been doing one by a famous German traveller in the late 19th century, travelled across Arabia, Julius Eutin, Charles Huber. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's a lot of shit coming out of there as well, because there's this real scramble to get, obviously, the cultural washing there. It's so blatantly obvious. They publish with all these big fancy publishers, and a lot of it's style over substance, and you've got fucking another coffee table book coming out every day there. which is, when you open them, you're like, what am I even looking at here? There's nothing here. But there's one photographer. I'm working with a female photographer, Nabila. Her and her mum, the first female Saudi photographers to sort of get let into doing Hajj, people on Hajj. They documented it over 3 years, and she came to me to do a photography project. So I'm working with her at the moment for a new publishing house setting.
That's phenomenal.
So that's some of the work that I'm doing.
You know what? Having this publication together will open up doors like that.
Yeah.
You know, have you done it before? Yeah. I have. Have you got a publication from it? Have you got a physical? So yeah. That's what I'm hoping for. Something exactly like that. 3 year documenting the same religious tradition. I would love that, honestly. I would love that.
There's a lot of opportunities, man. So I can try and open doors for you where I see it possible.
Perfect. Yeah. And look, I'm really happy with the conversation. I look forward to your email for your break it down for me. I'll put the bio and the hypnosis together. I don't know if you know, I had an idea of what the collection is similar to. It's not the same as. But do you know who Alice Oswald is?
No.
She's a poet. She was I think she was the poet laureate of the canals at one time. But you know the Dart River?
Yeah.
So she wrote a poem called Dart. And it's a big long form poem about 50 pages or 50 words, and she got Arts Council funding to write the poem, and then she won the T.S. Eliot Prize for it.
Amazing.
So she got 10 grand to write and then won a prize for 10 grand. But she went around the River Dart, and she was like interviewing loads of local people. She took their interviews, and whatever their words were, she put it into a poem, and it's a big long form poem, a really good poem.
Yeah.
But it represents Dart as a living, breathing river, poem, people. It's all mixed together. Sometimes the river talks, sometimes the people talk, sometimes the air talks and the fish talk.
That's really cool.
You can say, if you want to put it into like context of what it is like, like Alice, it's quite famous so people will know.
Good, because I was going to say,
if people know what that is, because it's a prize-winning collection.
Yeah, it's always good to have sort of similarities. They always ask that when it's always usually the sales team say, tell us 4 or 5 books that this is similar to that have been successful on the market. But in arts publishing more generally, it's much more niche and
it's more niche because I'm not looking for. So I told you I went to the Octopus House Publishing and I met lots of agents there. It turned me off, to be honest. I don't want to work like that. So I met lots of people. I met this really famous author called famous relative in the arts, which is called Kia Abdullah. I don't know if you come across her work, but she got contracted in by HarperCollins. And she was telling me, so I asked her a lot about her life. I found her agent and I asked her a lot about what you do. She said, you know what, at first I was writing, and she said, HarperCollins have made me into a specific type of writer because my name is Abdullah, And she's like, I'm writing about the Muslim experiences and things like that. So one of her books was like storytelling books, isn't it? So her book was about 4 Asian lads or 4 Bengali lads that get accused of sexually assaulting a woman. So the whole story is the court case. The whole book is the court case. And she was like, look, I really enjoy doing it, but I hated it at the same time. She's like, look, I'm forced to do this now. And she said for 4 years in a row, I produced 4 different books. And she said, I asked them, look, can I have a year off? I'm broken. And she was like, so you're telling me not to get an agent and not to go for a big fight? She's like, steer away from it if you want to keep your artistic integrity.
Absolutely, I mean, it's the same across the arts. In that sort of a world, there's certain stories that they want to be told, And I spotted that early on, man. I spotted that so early on when I was working with the publishing house, and I remember I went, it's probably like 2015, 2016, and I was working in doing some children's books, and we had a focus on literary translation from other languages, giving unheard voices a platform. We started in Libya, Eritrea, Sudan, all these places were pulling out some amazing books, and the one sort of commonality in the books that we chose was that they were good books. That was all that mattered. We didn't care, like it wasn't like, oh, this author's like going to be a good selling point in the book shit, but you know, we'll do it. It was always like, it's a good story, and like that was how we selected our books. It didn't necessarily translate into commercial success, but when I went to this, I remember I went to this, it was a Penguin Random House, and I went to an event where it was about inclusivity in children's books, and I remember I was really confronted where I was like, wow, like they were talking, you know, like there was sort of like, it was all about like trans writers, and they were like, yeah, we don't have enough, you know, like books about like, I can't remember, you know, there's not enough about blind kids, and I'm like, that's fine, yeah, I get that, there needs to be representation, and there needs to be that where kids know that, but you can't just select a book because it's got a blind kid. It has to be a good story, because when I was a kid, like the stories that stick with you, the stories that are the most magical and the ones that stir your imagination are the ones that are good. They're not like, right, you're going to read this because as a child in a wheelchair.
It's about autism. This is about,
Where's the fun in that? Or here's a story about how to be safe at the swimming pool. I mean, what? That's boring, man. You know, give me the Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe any day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what? Because you know what? What I don't like actually, I don't know, Lion, Witch, Wardrobe. Well, I don't like moral prescriptivism.
Yeah.
It's like somebody telling me how to live. I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm really religious. I'm probably Muslim. But no, I still hate people telling me how to live. Like, oh, this is the best way to achieve something. Let me work it out for myself. Tell me a nice little story. And let me just work it out for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, my granddad in Libya, he was a Sufi sheikh.
Was it?
Yeah, in Benghazi. Yeah, I still haven't been back to Libya, but I want to go back. He was a very sort of famous.
And your dad was the artist, yeah?
Yeah, a satirist. Artist and a satirist. So he lived in exile here.
He must have been quite funny then.
Oh yeah, very funny. He was Libya's most prolific sort of, you know, cartoonist.
Really?
Yeah. So his name was Satur, which means cleaver. You know, the butcher's cleaver. And he first started publishing in sort of like handmade publications in the early 80s. That were, you know, sort of part of the the oppositional movement in Libya. Yeah, but he was doing it from here because he left Libya when he was 19 years old. Could never go back. I'll give you a copy of the book I did on him.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to ask about his political official because it was Gaddafi then, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. So I mean, he left. My dad left in '75, 6 years after Gaddafi came. My dad's family were sort of quite close to the royal family that were overthrown, so King Idris.
Okay.
My grandfather was a sort of religious advisor because then the king, who was put there through the British really, post-war after the Italians were kicked out, he was close to the king. So my dad's roots are in Benghazi, and then when Gaddafi came, it wasn't like my dad left because of that, but it was more like, let's go to England. So him and his friends went to England, and then when he came to England, things started to ramp up in Libya where they started public executions of young people who were speaking out. Basically, the tyranny was just going up and up. And so my dad obviously realised that, I ain't going back. And then he was here, and he was illegal here for about 2 years on the run, sort of just ducking and diving, working Bibi's kebab house in Birmingham and stuff like that. And he was about to get deported, and him and my mum just got married. Nelson just thought, fuck it, get married, let him stay.
See you later.
So he got his stamp and he didn't have to go back, because if he went back he would have been fucked. And so a year after he got married, he found one of the oppositional magazines outside Earl's Court Station on a magazine rack. He was like, what's this? And then he wrote to them, can I publish some cartoons for you? And they said yeah. And then from there he sort of contributed. Then obviously when the internet came around, early 2000s, and there were these sort of oppositional websites where people were publishing written pieces, and obviously to the diaspora it became way more accessible. So it just gave him a bigger platform. From there, I get last night I got a message from a a Libyan guy who's a really top fashion designer, you know, he messaged me last night, oh man, you know, your dad, I interviewed him about 10 years ago, blah, 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 and
you need to get the Arabic done so you can go there and give speeches to it about your dad, man.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's, you know, I do a lot with, I have done a lot with
it's good on
different arts organisations.
Yeah, honestly,
it's kind of like it's not anything too extensive really, and like it's something that I'm working on. I will be working on again. I sort of worked very closely with his work. Did a series of exhibitions. I just got a piece that's going into a magazine early next year. I pitched another one to someone, so I'm getting back into the rhythm of writing at the moment because I've been so busy publishing other people's stuff.
Yeah, you get spread out.
Yeah,
writing is something that takes a lot of time and effort.
Oh yeah, you have to be in the right frame of mind.
It's focused, it's real deep.
Yeah.
Real deep.
But another book I'm working on about a guy from Burnley who was a DJ and a producer. He passed away a few years ago. He was one of the drum and bass jungle pioneers, and that project's going really well. That's getting published by someone else at the end of next year. So that's been a good creative outlet for me. Where
do you know James Holman's studio?
Yeah, in Blackburn.
Yeah,
and he did the book with Rough Trade. Yeah. And he did the Parties for the People by the People, which is a brilliant little publication. Yeah. I've never met him, but we've been in touch because
I met him once.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows who I am, but I met him.
He's a cool guy. I spoke to his partner Alex. He's sort of not his partner. He's they have like an artistic thing. I think they're called Uncultured something. Can't remember. But they've got a little studio together. And she was like, sent me a really nice email, and I said I will come over to Blackburn and see him, but I still haven't made the journey yet. It's just been, when I come up here, time just fucking evaporates.
Honestly, time is wherever you are.
Yeah, but I'll make the effort to go and see them. But yeah, that book's going to be good, coming out next year. I'm working on some other things locally as well, but yeah.
Creative life is a full life, isn't it?
That's it, man. Yeah, so you know, you kind of tend to do that, and I find meaning through sort of the work I'm doing, you know what I mean? And you start to, the more perseverance you have,
the more comes.
Yeah, because when you were saying about, you know, trying to make things happen with people and you hear nothing. The story of my life, man. I think you have no idea the amount of emails I send out every day to fucking random, like, I think of an idea, I'm like, at the moment I'm doing a reissue of a 1960s cycling book written by a guy from Preston. It was at the time in the 60s, they were known as the Encyclopedia of Cycling. It's got hand-drawn illustrations, everything. It's a fucking phenomenal book. So we've redesigned it. We've got a forward written by the former president of British Cycling. First thing this morning, I'm waking up, I'm like, because I'm a bit of a cycling nerd myself, and just emailing all these cycling journalists. Next year, this book's coming out, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do any events? You know, just trying to find these different ways. And I know a lot of times, you know, I never hear anything back. But then every now and then you get something.
Yeah. And probably what you get is worth it.
Yeah. It's just, I don't let it affect me anymore. It used to bother me where I'm like, oh, you know, my dad, this and that. And then I started to refine, because I'm like, wait a minute. You've got to try and tell this story in a way where people